Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Red Letter, Yellow Letter podcast, a weekly anarchist, voluntarist, agorist variety podcast where we talk about and philosophize the morals and ethics of everything going on in the world today, tomorrow, and in the future. I'm your host, Nev, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host and fellow anarchist, Harley. Harley, how are you doing?
Blue. Literally blue. I don't
You're
mean like
blue.
sad blue. I mean literally my screen keeps turning blue and I don't know why, but yeah.
But just it'll come back because we've been
Yeah,
conversing for like 30 minutes and it keeps coming. Sometimes it goes back to normal and then sometimes you go blue again.
I don't know what's going on. At this point, I don't have the energy to figure it out. It's just if I'm blue, I'm blue.
You're blue. So yes,
I will embrace who I am.
You will embrace being blue. Just don't join a band. Yeah. Okay, so we're at the end of 2020. So it seems appropriate to, maybe go over a few of the things that happened this year, because a bit like you're blue, this year's been a bit of a washout for most people, but it has not been without interest. There's some interesting things have happened this year.
Oh yeah, it's been interesting, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Kindly, nicely, without hurting 2020's feelings.
Oh yeah, God forbid you hurt the year's feelings. I mean, ugh. God forbid you hurt the year's feelings. I mean, it started off. I mean, it started off all right. The beginning of the year.
Hopeful.
The beginning of the year started off, not too bad. The first couple of weeks.
Well, that depends. I mean, if you were in Australia, no, it really did not.
No,
because it was all on fire.
Yeah, no. The fire. Yeah.
So no, these poor Australians absolutely did not have a good start to their year.
Yeah, no, they didn't. I mean, it would appear there are a lot of people that behave like assholes setting fires that live in Australia. And yeah, because a lot of the fires that were raging in Australia were deliberately set. And it's like, dude, seriously? Why would you want to burn your country down? You've got to live in it. You're an island. It's not like you can jump on a train or get in your car and drive to another country. You're an island country. Why would you burn it? It's just, yeah, that I must admit, when they started coming up with all of the, when they were coming up with all the statistics of just how many of those fires were, arson started by not just, not accidental fires, but deliberately started fires. It just does it makes you think, bloody hell, it's just there's a lot of people, there's a lot of assholes starting
That was
fires.
definitely a bit of an omen, to say the very least, for how the rest of the year was, because this whole freaking year has been a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
one thing after another.
That's just it. It was one thing after another, wasn't it?
Let's see. I'm wondering if I can find no, I can't find one. I was gonna say some people have been like they've kind of like made up like charts of what each month had.
Oh, what each month had.
Like devastating they all were. So I'm trying to find something to sum it all up. Why is everyone giving me Pokemon shit? I didn't know what else to. What the shit? This is not what I expected. I just kind of Googled 2020 event chart and literally fucking everything coming up is Pokemon. What the fuck? Why? I didn't know what else to look up. But Pokemon was not what I expected. Okay, I give up. I give up.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chinese New Year, like in January, like really, really started off 2020 with a bang, didn't it? It's just Chinese New Year. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a virus floating around. We're not quite sure about it at the moment. We're not quite sure. You might want to wash your hands. It's this new SARS thing, and a couple of people have died from it, but we're not 100% sure. But yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then, a bunch of people on the left said, yeah, don't worry about it. Go out, enjoy the Chinese New Year, go to Chinatown, have fun. And then, a bunch of people on the right are like, shouldn't we be a little bit cautious here? Because that's how the year started. The year started with the left going, don't worry about it, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here, folks, just go on as you want. And you had people on the right going, well, shouldn't we be a little bit cautious? And as the year...
I remember being asked on Friends Against Government what were my thoughts on the upcoming virus and if I thought it was going to be a threat and everything. And I remember saying it was being overplayed with just how dangerous it was. And I had hoped it was going to just get blown under the rug. I was wrong about that part. Most certainly had not been blown under the rug, but it obviously is nowhere near as dangerous as people say, as it has over a 99% survival rate. Most people are fine. And unfortunately, I do know some people who have lost some people, unfortunately. But I've also, honestly, I personally know quite a few who have caught it at this point and have been okay. So take that as you will.
No, I mean me personally, when they were talking about it, I was literally I thought of it as, well, just take the same precautions with it as you would with the flu.
Pretty much.
If you've got if you're ill and you've got the flu, stay at home. Don't go to work. Don't go out because you're going to give other people the flu. Now, flu affects just like the coof affected different age groups and different demographics in different ways. So does the flu. So it's like, don't go out because it may not be, you might just have the sniffles and a sore throat and a headache and the chills, but, somebody else that you pass it on to might get it worse. I mean, when somebody in my family gets the flu, when Piper gets the flu or my mum gets the flu, when it finally gets around to me, it's like, a little bit of aching and that's it. But when they get it, it affects them bad. So I was literally thinking at the time, just take similar precautions you would to flu. Sanitize your hands. If you get it, don't go out. Right. Keep your distance from people. And if you absolutely have to go out, throw on a mask or something, so that you're not sneezing or breathing over people. Wash your hands and keep good hygiene and top up your vitamins. So I was so what people should be doing as a general rule is what I was suggesting that they should do. And then, we got through February and we hit March, and then it was like, it didn't really kind of like explode until March. And
now everybody's going, wow, flu cases have sure dropped. And it's like, really?
And one of the reasons why I don't think one of the reasons why I don't think the news really exploded with it until March was because of something else that happened earlier on in the year, because we had the conclusion of impeachment 2020, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, 3 years of investigating, hundreds of millions of dollars, and nothing. So it's like, are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy, America? You wasted, sorry, your bureaucrats and your politicians wasted hundreds of millions of dollars on an investigation that found nothing.
This whole thing has been such a waste. So many things have just been such a freaking waste. A waste of resources, waste of time, waste of energy, waste of fear, waste of focus. This whole year has been nothing but a fucking waste. A friend of mine was telling me, and I kind of hated that he said this because he was right. and it hit a little close to home too. But he was telling me how on his Facebook, a lot of his friends are sharing memories from like around this time last year where they're all saying 2020 is going to be my year. 2020, I have plans to do this. I have things lined up to do this. I've got the money to invest into this, and I'm going to start this. And finally, I'm going to get my feet off the ground. I'm going to go take on the world. And I did that too. I at this point, this time last year, I had been working consistently as a bartender for a while, but I had also been working as a bartender instructor for a couple of months. And my side projects were doing pretty well. I was getting a lot of positive reinforcement. It was gaining traction pretty quickly. I had all these plans and ideas lined up, and I was starting to put up like some investment money and ideas, to get things kick-started and push everything forward. Like I had all different kinds of things lined up for my own projects and just for myself, set and ready to go. I was supposed to be freaking taking Shaolin classes. Mm-hmm. And then what happened? I had the date set to go have a practice class and everything. And then 1 week later is when we all went into lockdown. One flipping week. So all these things got completely yanked away all from all of us. And now nobody is going, 2021 is going to be my year. This is the year where I get to do this. This is the year I'm going to do this, and I'm going to accomplish that. And I'm going to learn to do this. And pretty much hardly anybody is saying it now, because everyone's kind of just like lost their hope.
Yeah.
They've had to use all their extra money just to survive. They've had to invest a lot of time into either job hunting or learning new skills or something. Just everything. Everyone has been in survival mode. It hasn't been, I'm done being comfortable. I'm going to take myself up a notch and finally get, get my traction, get things going, and really improve myself. It has literally just been, I need to live. I can't lose my house. I can't lose my job. That's how this whole year has been for everybody. And none of that would have had to happen if all these freaking lockdowns were going on. And, there's just so many things that could have been handled differently, more intelligently, and they just weren't.
Yeah.
They just were not. So yeah, this whole year has been an absolute waste for pretty much everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we know now that they actually had the vaccine at the beginning of the year. As soon as the genetic code for the virus was released by China back in January, the vaccine makers had a vaccine made within 2 weeks of receiving that genetic code. But in January, nobody was scared of it. So it's like, let's not, we don't need to panic. It's just, it's a flu-like virus. It's just a cold, flu-y type
I don't know.
virus.
Around here, I think that depends on where you were going. Around here in January and February, we definitely already had people wearing masks and being paranoid and all, like, well before it was mandated. I remember, was it our last episode or was it?
It was the last episode. Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to remember if I talked about this particular incident on this episode or the other podcast I did last week, but, yeah, the woman who was in the post office, their dog, and she's like looking disgusting. I remember you. Like that was like in January. That was well before the mandates ever happened, and that was getting more and more normal. I have family who like Ooh, I'm not blue anymore on the screen.
Yeah, you're normal colored again.
For now. But people people telling me that garage sales had been coming to a halt, and I even noticed on like Facebook Marketplace, I was trying to get like new furniture and stuff, and it was like impossible because everyone was social distancing. Everybody was afraid of everybody, and so nobody was putting anything up for sale because they didn't want people at their house. So I mean, here that was already trickling into effect for sure.
Yeah, no.
Even with like the photos of police riots and protests and everything, a lot of people still had masks on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that was it. It was in March, and as we were coming towards the end of March, where everybody, that was when everybody was like, let's, we need to do a lockdown. That was, it was in March when they first started talking about a lockdown. And if you remember, because I remember this very, very clearly, as you turn blue again, we were talking, what everybody, all of the politicians, all of the bureaucrats, all of the people who claimed to be in authority, even, the medical professionals were like, we don't have enough data. We need to err on the side of caution. Let's have a 2-week lockdown so that we can flatten the curve, and give the medical services the time needed to prepare for the inevitable wave of people that are going to get sick and that are going to need medical attention. And even back then in March, a lot of people were like, what, that does actually kind of make sense. If more people are going to get it, that means more people are going to die. And if more people get it and require medical attention, it makes sense for us to try and flatten that curve in preparation for when the curve goes back up again. Let's make sure that there are more beds. Let's make sure that there are more ventilators. Let's make sure there's more medicine. So it made sense to do that. And the problem with that is that was the one and only time what people talked about and what people were suggesting actually made sense. Because at the end of that 2-week period, it's like, okay, you've had 2 weeks now. The states have had the time. The federal government had jumped in and started giving this to that state and this to that state. And, when a state asks for help, preparing for that inevitable, creep up, it's like, yep, right, okay, we're good, we're set. That should have been the end of it. So the lockdown at that point should have been lifted because the medical services had been given preparation. So at that point, it's like, right, okay, what we want everybody to do now is go back to normal, but take the necessary precautions. So if you're sick, stay at home. You know, if you have to go out, put on and you think you're sick, put on a mask. Make sure that you're keeping your hands sanitized. Make sure that you're not mingling around in massive crowds, and everything can go back to normal because the medical services have prepared themselves. They've got more beds, more facilities. We can return to normal, and it just didn't. Once that 2-week period was over, then more things, like more people are getting it. It's like, well, the lockdown's over. We know that more people are going to get it. The whole point of the initial lockdown was to kind of flatten the curve. Make sure that infected people aren't getting sent and infecting more and more people. Give them time to prepare, and that didn't occur. And we know it didn't occur because we're at the end of the year now, and in a lot of states, lots of hospitals are struggling, and it's like, why? You shouldn't be struggling. Way back in March, you were given the time to ask for help and prepare for what happens at the end of the year. It wasn't just going to go away. Nobody said and nobody thought that it was going to go away. So, that didn't happen. And then, boom, what did we get in April and May? Protests, riots, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people out on the streets, all mingling. And it's like, you get that that's just going to make things worse, right? The whole point of going back to normal was going back to normal, and riots and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people congregating in groups day after day after day, week after week, month after month, that's not normal. So then, the curve that had been flattened, it's like, okay, so good job we had that shutdown. It's a good job we had that lockdown, and the medical services were able to prepare for the coming months. But as we discovered, they hadn't. So then we had the middle of the year, and the summer kicked in, and it just kept on getting worse and worse. And then what did we get in the middle of the year? Killer bees. Don't you remember?
The murder hornets?
Wasn't it up in? I'm trying to remember what state it was. Was it Washington State?
Are you talking about the murder hornets?
Yeah, the murder hornets.
Oh yeah, that we kind of did. We got like 3, and then they were like done.
So we we had a bunch of stuff. We had a bunch of stuff going off in the middle, and all that happened in the middle of the year was left and right people arguing about what should not happen. And it's like, we know what should have happened because we talked about this. It was discussed. It was debated for weeks way back in March. And people didn't do what they were supposed to do in April. And it just made, So we get like halfway through the year, and, people's lives are being destroyed. People's livelihoods are being destroyed. Businesses are being shut down, never to reopen again. They're being forced to shut down. People were literally being told. Businesses were literally being told to commit suicide. It's like,
I know. And now, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, now we still have people on that raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour bandwagon, and it's like, do you not fucking think before you speak? I swear. The people who are saying we need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, well, we need it now more than ever because people are suffering. Who the fuck is gonna pay it? You just campaigned that we shut everything down. You just basically demanded that small businesses, as you said, commit suicide. Again, 60% of businesses forced to shut down are not able to reopen again. Those are largely small businesses. You're sitting here claiming you hate capitalism, you hate corporatism, but then you're shutting down the small mom and pop businesses, leaving only the big corporate businesses to survive. who do you think are going to be the ones that can afford to pay $15 an hour in this situation? Not the ones barely even able to stay open. The corporations would love a $15 an hour minimum wage right now because they can actually afford to do it, especially with all the increased business they've been getting with their little man competition shut down.
Yeah.
And somehow you think it's a good idea to raise it now? That doesn't even make any fucking sense. But no cause and effect thinking. It's just do it now. Like, oh my God, people, slow the fuck down and think before you fucking speak, especially when we were talking about the livelihoods of other people. It's, it's.
And
the thing is,
and the thing is, the non-ability or the ability to express opinions such as that became, it was literally around the middle of the year, it became so taboo. The cancel culture had one hell of a massive overdrive in the middle of the year. It's like if you express an opinion that does not conform to the 1% of the 1% on social media, not mainstream, but the 1% of the 1% on social media, you were then castigated, and you just need to shut up. And it's like, oh no, I'm just offering an opinion. No, you're not allowed to have that opinion.
I absolutely love when they use that excuse. Well, this is my opinion. Okay, your opinion is factually incorrect, negatively hurting people. And so therefore, it doesn't fucking matter what my opinion is. Your opinion can get shoved right up your fucking ass because your opinion is trying to hurt the livelihood of innocent people. There has to be a line here. An opinion is, I like chocolate ice cream. You don't. I'm going to order chocolate ice cream. You don't have to order it. An opinion is not, I like chocolate ice cream, so therefore I think everybody should order it. Fuck you if you're allergic to chocolate. Like, then people aren't making that connection at all. It's all about it's me. My opinion matters. My voice matters. No, when you are hurting people because you don't have any sort of cognitive thinking, you're just focusing on what you want. Your opinion doesn't fucking matter. It really does not. I'm blue again.
I know you've gone blue again. It's like you go blue
saying
when you
earlier,
get
it's
angry.
like the scene on Willy Wonka, like Violet's chewing the gum and she starts turning blue. That's literally what it looks right now. I look full ass Smurf right now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to roll you to the squeezing room and squeeze the blue out of you.
That creeped me out so much as a kid. Like that was just like so unpleasant. Like I don't know. It was. I didn't watch that movie very often. Let's put it that way.
It's so memeable, though. Gene Wilder is such a memeable character. Lots of memes this year as well, obviously. Meme wars, fact wars. I mean, my God, I've never seen so many, it was just absolutely bonkers, around the middle of the year. Because the likes of Facebook and Twitter and YouTube had basically come out and said, okay, this is what we're going to allow as factually accurate, and anything else is not, and we'll censor it and we'll cover it up, or we just won't allow the dissemination of that information to be made because you're all stupid and incapable of checking facts yourself. And it's like so condescending. I mean, the majority of I've never quite understood why regular people don't make that connection. That when the social media giants and the tech giants were saying we're not going to let you see this, they're literally saying that you are too stupid to be able to determine what is reality and what is not, what is fact and what is not fact.
Well, I mean, really,
what is fact and what is opinion.
Yeah, a lot of them just don't care to. They find what they come up with some kind of random ass dumb opinion, and they don't look to see if they're correct. They look to see if their thoughts are justified. So they hang on to that belief and they look for things that make them feel like their thoughts are justified so they can feel smart and they can feel right.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely, This was
Yeah,
definitely
they
the year
don't
of
care about
confirmation
what's
bias.
actually factually correct. They care about what makes them feel good. And what makes them feel good is being right, no matter how wrong they actually are.
Yeah, yeah. And you had the the 1% of the 1% doing an awful lot of virtue signaling when they heard that confirmation bias. So something would be put out by the 1% of the 1%, and then the rest of the 1% of the 1% would then be like, oh yeah, no, this, I'm going to do this and I'm going to follow this because I'm a good, virtuous person. And it's like, well, that's not right though. Why would you go along with that opinion when that opinion is not based in fact? And then you had the Hollywood and the media jump on that bandwagon because as at the beginning of the year, it was mainly just the private citizens and that that 1% of the 1% of social media. But then it started to grow, and journalists and Hollywood and people in the media started to tap onto it. And it's like, hang on a minute, you're supposed to deal as a journalist, you're supposed to deal with objective fact, but you're not. So can you kind of like chill out a little bit? And then you had the objective media or people within the objective media saying, oh, well, maybe we should just stop people expressing opinions. And it's like, are you serious? If we don't let everybody express their opinion, how can we come to, formulate, a accurate opinion on something? You need to hear bad ideas, and everybody needs to hear those bad ideas so that they can point at and look and go, hey, that's a bad idea. Well, that's a misinformed opinion. This is that your opinion has been formed by this, and I'm going to point out why it's wrong, A, B, and C. It's like, no. We don't want to have to explain why it's wrong. We just know it's wrong. It's like, but that doesn't make any, so, and you had all of this, and it slowly crept all the way through the year. And if you did not express the correct opinion in accordance with that 1% of the 1%, then people would try and cancel you, or they would stop you. And it got to the point where you had, especially regarding coronavirus, is you literally had a split in the scientific community. Where one half of the community would be like, okay, yep, I understand that, and this is why it's wrong, and then the other half going, no, you're just wrong. Not here's why you're wrong. You're just wrong. Shut up. I remember there was a very, very well done interview with some medical professionals in California, and it was covered by mainstream media, and then YouTube banned it. And it's like, but they're medical professionals, talking about exactly what they've seen and how things have gone in their medical practice. So they are talking about objective facts based on the medical advice and the medical treatment that they've been giving to their patients. You can't just ban it. Yeah, sure, you can't add it as a generalization, but you can't just get rid of it because what they're talking about is real. It's happened because they've physically experienced it. So it gets banned, but then when other people come along and say, oh, that person's opinion counts because, it's their truth, they've lived through it. It's like, but you can't pick and choose. You can't be so hypocritical when it comes to things like that. And that just seemed to happen more and more and more as the summer dragged on with the riots and with the protests, because not every protest was a riot. But every riot was not a protest. It was by definition a riot. As soon as it's a riot, you can no longer call it a protest. It's a riot. And I think someone came out with some statistics like 7% or 13% of all protests were riots. It's like, well, then it's not a protest. Then it wasn't a protest, was it? 100% of protests.
Unfortunately, a great deal of those protests did start off as protests until cops went ahead and got violent first, and therefore they got violent back. So unfortunately, I mean, when these riots are going on, I was getting shown live footage from all over the nation. And I was, from friends there actively recording, showing them, I remember like, I feel he was in Columbus, Ohio. One friend was there and he's showing everybody sitting on the ground, literally just arm in arm. They're just sitting on the ground off the roads on a sidewalk, just sitting arm in arm quietly, not doing anything. And cops ran up and just started macing them all in the fucking face and shooting them with.
Oh, wasn't I know that I've seen that. That was from the I remember that video. That was from the Occupy Wall Street days.
No.
Where the students are sat down, linked arm in arm, and a guy comes along and maces them all in the face.
No, this isn't it. This was live video. A friend was filming it, broadcasting it live on Facebook during a protest in Columbus, Ohio.
Right. Okay, so it was so it was a live one.
This is what I had been seeing from friends all over the fucking nation. Showing they're just casually walking to a protest. They're totally relaxed. No one's screaming, no one's violent. And the cops initiated the violence first. And then they had the fucking audacity to go, oh, they weren't really protests. They were riots, guys, because they can't control themselves. You mean your cops can't control yourselves? That's what happened. Yes, there are definitely some protesters that went out and started getting violent first. And they were later exposed to be undercover cops much of the time. This is video I had seen live broadcasted from people I know, not random videos shared everywhere, actual friends of mine from across the country, showing photos of snipers as they're walking by, snipers up in buildings in Texas, all kinds of shit. And then the freaking media has the audacity to say, oh, they're mostly riots, though. Yeah, because y'all made them riots. God, like.
Well, the media were doing the opposite of that.
Oh no. Well, no, maybe the left wing, but not the right wing media.
Yeah. No.
Fox News type stuff, the pro-Trump shit. Yeah. Oh no, they were all riots. Because y'all made them riots.
Exactly, and that was one of one of the problems that we had this year with the media. Is there was a split. There was a big split in the media. There was no objective. There was very, very little objective news being reported. The left, it was all peaceful protests, and the ones that descended into property damage and riots were mostly peaceful, whereas the right wing media outlets simply reported on protests or riots or any kind of gathering that resulted in property damage and destruction. So, but
then they weren't saying it was peaceful until a cop shot someone in the fucking head with a pellet gun, like with a rubber bullet, is what I mean. Like that's not what they just weren't saying that shit because that's not the narrative. That wasn't the narrative. They wanted to push that anarchists are bad, and all anybody, even somewhat left wing, or bad. Anybody that says Black Lives Matter, whether or not it's for the movement or for the sentiment, because they are two different things. Anyone who says either of them is just bad. That was their narrative, So there was definitely a huge split, and like nobody was advertising it correctly at all whatsoever. Because why should they?
And there were lots of.
Why would they advertise it correctly when they have a specific goal in mind that they're trying to accomplish here? That a specific narrative that they're trying to get everybody to believe. Why would they?
Yeah, and it didn't help. It didn't help that it was. It didn't help that it was an election year, or that the voices of lots of independent journalists were. That there were lots of independent journalists going out there to get the truth, so there were, and here's the thing. Happened to them. Yeah, there were independent journalists on both the left and on both the right, because they would, openly admit, oh, I'm on the left, but they were able to, reel in their biases to do some, legitimate.
Yeah, they wanted to know what the actual truth was, and unfortunately, a lot of them were silenced. They were attacked. They were chased down. They were.
And that was the freaky part. So you've got legitimate left wing and right wing independent journalists that are just trying to report, because they're the ones that aren't massively funded. So, a lot of those people were just dealing in stuff that was in their immediate locales.
Right.
And a lot of the time it's like it would never become national, because it's like, well, we can't bring them on. They're independent. It's like, well, you could talk about,
but you won't, because you don't want the actual truth to come out.
Yeah,
you just
so you've got a couple of left-wing journalists there, and they stayed with that peaceful protest throughout its entirety. Okay, and then you've got some right-wing independents that were there reporting on stuff that was never peaceful, that was just a riot, and they get ignored because neither of the two sides, just nobody wanted to meet in the middle and go, look, we've got some peaceful stuff. We know that this is peaceful because these independent journalists live tweeted the whole goddamn thing. And we've got these right-wing independent journalists, and they covered a riot that you reported as a mostly peaceful but they were there the entire time, and they know that it was a riot, and they know that it was and nobody would just, the left wouldn't report on both of those people, and the right wouldn't report on both of those types of journalists. So admittedly, the legacy media may have completely and utterly screwed up and destroyed all trust in them.
People still, the mainstream still largely still trust them because, again, it fits their narrative. So they just want to see and trust whatever fits their personal narrative. Doesn't matter how much they lie. Doesn't matter how much gets exposed. As long as they report what they want to be the truth, that's all they care about. A lot of these people know they lie. They know that they're not factually correct, but it doesn't matter to them, because if those lies are still pushing towards what they want to see accomplished, they're going to back it up. I remember, during all this, when this is happening, there was, I guess, like news or articles were reporting about this big angry Trump protest that was, like pro-Trump, meaning like all these Trump flags everywhere in America, blah, 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 And there were all these photos put up, like, I don't know if it was like by CNN specifically or what, but a lot of them were left-leaning places going, oh, look how evil they are. And then this one woman recorded, she was on the sidewalk and she saw these people with their flags and everything stop, pose for a photo. They actually posed to make it look like they were blocking traffic. And they had like professional photographers there, like unmarked professional photographers taking the photos, and they were acting it out as if they were blocking traffic. They did this for like 10 seconds and left. So they literally just faked photo ops to pretend there was this big protest going on in town that never actually happened.
Yeah, there was a lot of tomfoolery going around. During there was a lot of tomfoolery going around during the various different protests and the various different riots. Lots of virtue signaling going on as well. The whole thing, I mean, to be honest, the whole thing was a mess. May and June and July, the whole thing was a mess. Because obviously, you've got lots and lots of people going out. In a lot of places, lockdowns weren't being enforced because everybody had assumed that, what was done in April was going to be sufficient enough, without then thinking, well, yeah, we've done what needed to be done. But the problem is, if you're going to be doing these massive gatherings of hundreds of thousands of people and millions of people, it's only going to exacerbate. That's not what we were preparing for. We were preparing for normalcy, not preparing for, extraordinary circumstances. And
honestly, June and July are such a blur to me. Like, I mean, there is a lot of personal stuff going on with my family at that time. And that was when I was trying to just focus on getting my home business stuff taking off, because I had to make up for, not having both my jobs at that point. So I hardly remember what was going on besides COVID shutdowns. I hardly remember what was going on in June and July.
Yeah.
It's such a blur.
But I mean, obviously, the thing with the summer, obviously, as we progressed through 2020, a lot of people well, are we, what about the schools? When are we going to reopen schools? Are we going to reopen X, Y, and Z? And the thing is, by the end of, by August, there was a lot of data. There was a lot of data available. And a lot of scientific studies had been done. People had really, really gone to town on the genetic code for COVID, and we had a lot of statistics coming back. And the bulk of the statistics showed, well, great. Children aren't being affected by this. The flu is more troublesome for, under 15s and under 20s. So, hey, at least we have that one saving grace. We can at least let the kids go, let the kids go back to school. And then everybody was like, oh, we can't do that. It's like, well, what? But we've got, the data's in. We've got the stats. We know that children aren't going to be affected by this. And then you had the entire establishment like, well, yeah, but we need to just, we need to shut things down anyway. We can't reopen the schools. And everyone's, well, and that's when, I would say all around about the August, September, that was when, science just went kind of out the window. Science was replaced with feelings. Yeah. So, we had all of the, everything, nobody really talking about, science and studies and various different things going on over the summer, because the summer was, riots and protests. And then that kind of petered out and it started, and everyone's like, okay, so summer's over. Are we going to return to normal? And it was like some places did want to return to normal, and then other states didn't. Other states wanted to like, no, we need to do lockdowns. We need to do more lockdowns. And the World Health Organization and the UN came out and said, well, actually, we need to come up with a new solution because it didn't work. And we have these countries of the world to show that it didn't work. Yeah, it flattened, the lockdown did flatten the curve for a very short period of time, but that's what it was supposed to do. And now we need to come up with another solution. And everybody's like, yeah, well, we're kind of just going to ignore that and do our own thing. And in those August statistics and in all of that data that started coming out, we started finding out that there were some states that did some really, really messed up stuff right back at the beginning of the lockdown. And you had states like New York and Michigan were set, we found out that these states that were apparently doing the right thing weren't, because they were sending infected patients back to nursing homes and, old elderly care homes, and the deaths that were occurring because of that were inflating the death figures. And then we got more inflated death figures around that October-September time period, because the CDC had come out and said, right, okay, we have the data, and it's not just healthy, regular, normal people that are dying from COVID. It's regular people with comorbidities, 1 or 2 comorbidities. Right. So people with like liver issues or lung issues or diabetic issues, if they're getting it, these vulnerable people, when they get it, they're the ones that are suffering the most. So come August and September, the whole change should have been like, right, okay, so what we need to do here now is we need to return to normal, but we need to tell people who are vulnerable, people who are over the age of 75, people who are, have, illnesses, people with terminal illnesses, people with comorbidities. Those are the ones that we need to protect. Those are the people that we need to look after. And that went completely, again, it just went out the window. It's like, well, no, we just need to do it for everybody. It's like, yeah, but not everybody is going to suffer from this. We need to start moving things forward. People need to pick up their lives, small businesses, mom and pop shops, everybody needs to be able to start opening again and living their life normally, while simultaneously making sure that we take the necessary precautions that the most at-risk people are looked after, because they weren't being looked after at the beginning of the year. But now we have the data and we have the facts and we have some good scientific knowledge moving forward. We need to do something different, and nothing changed. Nothing changed.
It's just been the same thing on repeat over and over and over again, and it's not going to work.
It was like, we were literally in hell, because the people that were in charge were doing the exact same thing that they were doing at the first half of the year, expecting a different result. And it's like, that is the definition of hell. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You're not going to get a different result if you do not.
It was just Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, but with zombies.
And it has continued for it's continued on and got even worse over the last couple of months, and this whole suicide pact that some states have with small business owners is gone into overdrive. It's like you will shut down and go out of business and stop everyone from making a living, therefore they can't pay their rent, they can't buy food, or you can keep doing it and we're going to fine you and take money. So it's like, yeah, it just went in a complete and utter overdrive and nothing changed. And a lot of people then, the people that could afford to survive through the first half of the year, thinking, I'll do what's necessary in order to survive just to get through the end, then, the goalposts would move or things would change or restrictions would become even more. And it just got and that all of that happened despite all of this extra data coming out in August and September and October. So by the time we've reached last month, November, there is a lot more data, a lot more information, and that some states, certain states, just wouldn't listen, and all they would say is, we're going to follow the science. And it's like, stop saying you're going to follow the science and you're going to listen to the science and actually do it, because
they're only going to follow the science that they like.
That's just it. They weren't even following the science that they weren't even following the science that they like. It doesn't make sense. Or, I mean, like, you've got the strip malls. So you've got these long buildings, and the buildings have got lots of various different shops and lots of various different retail shops. So you'd have one in the middle that was allowed to open and people were allowed to go in and out, but they weren't allowed, but the two shops down wasn't. Now, the action, we're not, because government said that's essential and that's non-essential. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what you determine as essential or not is irrelevant to the science.
Right. And
one of my biggest people can go in and out of that shop, but the same group of people can't go in and out of that shop. It makes no difference to the people physically moving in and out of those geographic locations.
Well, and one of my biggest gripes too, ever since this happened, is like when we had our shutdown start happening, it just, so with our lockdowns, and I know this happened other places too, but like basically what they did was they put curfews, they put limits onto when you could shop at these different places, when you could go out and buy groceries, when you could go to this different business. And so that obviously put us all in a tighter time restriction. We only had this amount of time to shop. Well, it's things like food, necessities, it's stuff we have to go out and get. We can't really, even if we're buying less, which no one was buying less, obviously everyone was hoarding everything, but even if we were buying less, that doesn't necessarily mean much because we're still all having to go out there and buy it, Mm-hmm. So now you're putting all these people who have less time and for less freedom to get done what they have to get done. Everybody's going to the same few buildings because now most places are shut down. So you've got fewer hours where you can shop. You've got fewer places where you can shop, more competition for getting in there and getting what you need to get, which means more people within close proximity of each other. More people condensed in a tiny new area, which means more chances to spread whatever the fuck you're afraid of spreading. But, and somehow that just didn't cross most people's minds somehow. And I would say that and they'd be like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. That's not exactly like fucking hard to figure out, but they're just blindly following authority. They're blindly following what science told them. And, science says if you have that's, again, isn't that why we weren't supposed to have Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc.? Because we weren't supposed to have a bunch of people in a small area where you're more likely going to spread something. So wouldn't that same science apply to Walmart, where you have, again, fewer hours where you can shop, fewer places where you can shop, but still the same amount of people who have to go and shop? So you're condensing them in this smaller area in a smaller time frame altogether. So why are we cherry picking when the science works and when it doesn't like this? And I can't help but find that so ironic because it's become more and more apparent how statism and follow the science. Like, look, I've always had a fascination with science. I wanted to major in astrobiology, you know, amongst other things. Like, it's not like I'm a science denier or anything like that. My issue is when, again, people are cherry picking the science facts. People are not looking at things logically and going, okay, wait a minute. They're telling me to do this, but logically, if I do this, wouldn't this happen? They're just blindly following. And it's a religion. It is a religion. And it's so funny when they say, oh my God, you Christians are cherry picking this out of Christianity. You Christians are cherry picking when this is a sin and when this isn't. Okay, you science lovers are cherry picking when this is going to be dangerous to somebody and when this isn't.
Yeah.
You're doing the same goddamn thing. Science is your religion. You're literally saying in Dr. Fauci, however you say his name, how you say his name, Fauci? Fauci. Okay. I'm really bad with names like that, honestly. It's kind of a running joke. But anyway, you're literally saying Dr. Fauci we trust on fucking Christmas ornaments. Like, you don't see this as your religion? Honestly? Y'all treating it just like a religion.
Yeah. No, I mean, I to be perfectly honest with you, I don't take anything.
I don't mean you personally.
Yeah, no. I don't take anything that Dr. Fauci says seriously because.
I know you don't. But I'm seeing this stuff everywhere. I'm seeing the Christmas ornaments. I'm seeing the chanting and the songs and the caroling in his name and shit. Like, they're literally treating him like Jesus.
Yeah, it is nuts.
It is alarming.
What he says, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what he says doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold water.
No.
What he's saying now doesn't make sense because back during the first half of the year, he sat in a room in front of Congress people and said that they weren't recommending masks and they weren't recommending gloves because they wanted the masks and the gloves to go to essential workers first.
Right.
So for people to say, oh, we have to listen to what Dr. Fauci says because he has the people's best interests at heart. I say, no, he doesn't. If he did,
all the other doctors don't.
He would not have said what he said during the first half of the year. So why should I believe him now that he has the best interests of the general population when he didn't have the best interests of the general population at the beginning of the year? And people should look at that, and here's the thing, it's very, very hard, I believe, for people in positions of authority to flip-flop and then expect people to believe them.
They totally will, but that's what they know they can get away with it.
Yeah, and the reason why it's difficult is because unless people listen to them religiously, people are going to distrust what they say if all they hear is the first thing that they said. So, if nobody hears what Fauci says now because they heard what he said at the beginning half of the year, people are only going to do what he said at the beginning of the year. Similarly, like when perfect example would be when 2 months ago, Como was saying that he wouldn't trust and that he doesn't blame people being skeptical of a vaccine.
Right, you mentioned this before too. I think
if all you heard was that, and you didn't hear his flip-flop a few weeks ago when he's saying, oh, we have to take it and we should be critical of the critics, it's like, so if you only heard the first thing that he said, regardless of what side you're on, whether a person is left or right, you'd go, hey, he's saying that we should be critical of this and that we shouldn't take it because they didn't hear what he said second. And then the people, you could find someone that heard what he first said but didn't hear he said the second time, arguing with somebody that didn't hear what he said the first time but only heard what he said the second time. So you could literally have two people on the right and two people on the left going, but he said that we shouldn't take it, that we should be critical of it, arguing with someone saying, no, he didn't. He never said that. He said that we shouldn't be critical of it and that we should be open to the vaccine. And it's like, so you've literally got two people banging their heads against each other because the same person said two completely different things. And it's like, how do people move forward trusting an individual person that says that?
I know I've mentioned this before, but, it's like I said, facts. It doesn't make any sense to say I believe in the facts all the time. And I mean, obviously, to an extent, yes, there are some things that by now we know are facts. So obviously, you should listen to them. But when it's things like this where it's new, yes, studying viruses is not new. Studying this particular one is relatively new. So it's best to remain skeptical, because science will one day tell you one thing and then the next day it might tell you something else. And it's not because things are just changing. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I mean, there are exceptions to that too, because that's just how nature works, you know? But in general, there's just some kind of factual thing we aren't going to know. I mean, like we discussed the asteroid a while back, that asteroid where before they were saying, oh, this asteroid has no chance of hitting us because of its path. And then, but what happened was they didn't take into consideration this effect where as it heats up, the shift is going to change. So now they're saying we can't technically say there's no chance it's going to hit us. We just have to say we don't know if it will or not, just because we did not take this effect that we hadn't really studied before into effect. Now we know this effect can happen and it can change it. So now we have to say it's no longer a fact that it's not going to hit us. And that's just how it is in general. That's how science is in general. But unfortunately, people are holding on way too much as, well, we just discovered this right now, so this is the truth. No, it's what we think is the truth right now. The scientific method is all about study, try again over and over and over and over and see if it sticks. And there's never an end to that. You're supposed to keep checking it as time goes on, because again, things can change, just like with what we thought was the fact with the asteroid. So to blindly follow, well, this is what they say right now. I'm sorry, you're not a scientifically educated person if that is your attitude, is follow what they tell you right now and not be open to going, you know what? Maybe this might change because I'm looking at these facts from these other viruses and how this was handled and et cetera. And this happened. So maybe there's a chance that this isn't going to be as we know it fact next month. But nope, they hold on to it religiously, absolutely religiously. And they're more than willing to flip-flop. And just in science we trust. You got to trust the science. And, you know, basically what I'm trying to sum it up to is you can't demonize those who doubt, or at least are a little skeptical when there's a new fact that comes out. Mm-hmm. Because there's a damn good chance that that fact, as we know it, is going to change. And again, science is only as good as the scientists who research it. I mean, yes, we have our general facts. We have the way the world works, obviously, but the way we understand it and what gets put out there as fact is all based on what humans discover and piece together and advertise as fact. And humans make errors all the time. You have to be a little skeptical, no matter what they say. That doesn't mean just distrust and demonize no matter what they say. It just means be willing to have some wiggle room. And don't be surprised if someone has some concern going, well, I'm taking into account when this happened, this might happen with this. So I'm not entirely sure if I believe what they're saying currently. That's honestly the healthiest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with healthy skepticism. And if Como had any sense, or, you know, thought about it in any way, shape or form logically, his first statement would have been, you know what, I'm going to be skeptical of this because it's coming fast. You know, I think everybody should be skeptical of any vaccine that gets rushed out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then when he made his second statement, it should have been, you know what, I'm less skeptical because people have spoken to me. And all of those people out there that I told to be skeptical, you have every right to continue to be skeptical. I myself am less skeptical. If you'd like to, you know, understand why I'm less skeptical, it's because of A, B, and C. Instead of, you're not allowed to be skeptical anymore. So, like, that's the frustrating element, as opposed to being clever about it and being smart about it and saying, hey, I was very skeptical, now I'm less skeptical. I'm not going to tell those people that I initially said should be skeptical that they're wrong to continue to be skeptical. But he didn't do that. He said, you're
No.
not allowed to be skeptical anymore, and we need to get rid of, and silence and curb those people that want to be critical. I mean, I prefer the Leslie Knope line when she, from Parks and Recreation. When I was a kid, I thought chocolate milk came from chocolate cows. But when I got older, I discovered that's not what happened. So I changed my opinion on where chocolate milk came from. That's how skepticism should work. You can be and should be skeptic about certain different things. It either, your skepticism becomes weaker based on the additional and the more information that you get. I mean, you could be very skeptical about something and then 3 months later be a lot less. You're probably still going to be a little bit apprehensive about something, but the more facts that you get, the more likely you are to change your mind about something, as opposed to what we get, which is a person in a position of authority saying one thing and then completely and utterly flip-flopping without explaining how they got from A to B. And that's the issue that I have, is you get lots of people completely flipping for political reasons and not scientific reasons, when if you want people to believe why you've changed your mind, why you flip-flopped, you need to give a reasoned, rational explanation as to why you flipped from A to B. And that's not what happens. People flip from A to B based on political or ideological reasons right now.
And honestly, more people just need to be willing to admit if they do not know enough about a subject, just say it. That's okay. If, it's okay to be like, you know what, I'm hearing this side, I'm hearing this side. I don't have an exact formulated opinion. I personally, I'm going to do this because they have a point to me. Maybe it's healthier, maybe it's safer, etc. But there's just this self-righteous attitude on both sides. The hardcore anti-maskers versus the absolute hardcore, you need to wear them or I hope your whole family dies maskers.
Yeah.
None of you guys are as smart as you think you are on the subject. None of us are. We don't know. Again, this is a new virus. To really legitimately believe that you are in any position to tell somebody you have to wear a mask or I hope your whole family dies, or like hell if I'm going to wear a mask, I don't care if your family gets sick. None of you are in the position to really act like you know better than anyone else in that regard. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's your prerogative, but don't go screaming into people's faces, calling them all sheep, blah, 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 just because they are wearing one. You don't know if this is somebody who might legitimately be a prime subject for getting sick, if they have severe asthma, if they have autoimmune disease, if they work with a job with lots of elderly people. There's plenty of legitimate reasons to take those extra precautions, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I personally am not in that position. I also don't really leave the house very much, but even so, if I was working a job where I was working with elderly people often, yeah, I would definitely take extra. I mean, I already, sanitize. I work, with food and drinks and stuff. So I'm always sanitizing. I still have my mask on at work. I'm frequently washing my hands and sanitizing my work area. It's just the right thing to do. And we do get a lot of elderly people that come up to my work as well. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to be more courteous and keep everything a little extra safe, because why not? Doesn't hurt me in any way to be courteous and make them feel safer and keep the place cleaner. Oh no, we're keeping the place extra clean. How dare I? Like, come on,
Yeah.
With that said, if I'm out alone and I'm walking, from the gym to work or something, I don't have my mask on. I'm not around anybody. I'm not sick. It's clean, fresh air. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I don't go into people's faces and go, oh my God, you're wearing a mask. You're a fucking sheep. I don't look at people who are not wearing one going, oh my God, you're trying to kill grandma. Everyone has, who am I? I mean, people could see me not wearing my mask if I'm walking down, I have to wear it at the gym. You have to wear masks at the gym. Now I do have a very severe sleep disorder. On top of that, I have other underlying conditions that make me not just prone to passing out, falling asleep, but also make me prone to full body paralysis. and convulsions and all kinds of other fun stuff, right? And they can strike me at any freaking time. So if I'm at the gym and you see me with my mask pulled down a little bit, I'm trying to breathe, let me breathe, because there's a good chance I'm literally trying to not go unconscious or paralyzed, and I need to have consistent airflow. Okay? I actually had one guy give me a dirty look because I pulled on my mask for 5 freaking seconds to rehydrate. I literally was just taking a drink while I was on the machine, taking a drink, putting it back on, and he shot me a dirty look and he did the eye pointy glare thing at me. I'm like, really? Just to get a fucking drink while I'm at the fucking gym? Come on, dude. But otherwise, that's all I've, and so yeah, I'm not in any position to act self-righteous on either aspect, and neither are you. Not like, but meaning anybody listening, you in general, all y'all.
Yeah, when
the self-righteous attitude, the elite, the whole like, I know better than you fucking don't. So get off your fucking high horse.
Yeah, my response to people that do that to me is usually like this.
Right.
A little scratch.
That was the only time I've ever had anything. I was kind of like, did that really just happen? When it happened, he was like a good like 15 feet from me, and he just did that. And I just pulled down for a second to get a drink and go back to working out. I'm like, what did I do? Again, if I don't stay hydrated, good chance of passing out. So like, what the hell is your problem, dude? I know I may not look like I have health issues because I'm, not even 30 yet. I'm in fairly decent shape, but like, yeah, no, I've got physical problems, and I know what I got to do to, what do you want me freaking convulsing on the floor? Is that what you want? Like, come on, people. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, everything. We don't know shit. I don't know shit. I'm still going to ramble about it because I'm rambling about shit I'm fairly confident in, which we all do, but.
And now we're at the end of the year.
I'm also not being a jackass to the general public about it.
Yeah.
That's
being diplomatic is key.
Mm-hmm.
You should be as diplomatic and civil with people as possible. You get, what is it?
I'm not forcing you to follow my opinion. I'm speaking what I think. I'm saying, here's what I'm doing based on my particular situation. And I know others are in similar situations. So here's what I'm doing. And for those in similar situations, maybe you'll want to hear from me so you can formulate more of an opinion. I am not getting in your face, starting fights, threatening to call the cops, following you around, and causing a scene because your opinion is different from mine. That's the key.
Yeah. Honey is always better than vinegar. But now that we're at the end, so all of that. So we've talked about all of that and the way that things go with all of that. But now, obviously, the end of the year, November kicked in. Obviously, we had an election. Let's just not even go there because we know what
that just happened. We all know what happened.
We all know what happened. Yeah, exactly. Pieces of paper were marked, and people were like, "I think I think that person should tell us what to do," and other people said, "I think that person should tell everybody what to do." Our thoughts on that are universal. So it's other people saying, I want that person to tell everybody what to do.
I love when statists go on about, oh, you're an anarchist. That's such a childish state of mind. I'm like, if you need some old ass pedophile telling you what to do, I think perhaps you might be the immature one here. If you're a grown ass adult and you can't decide, you make your own decisions for yourself. You're the one who needs a nanny. Not me. I'm beyond that. And they never know what to say to that. They never, ever. That's usually when I get blocked.
And then boom, what do we get this month? So we had the election and all of the guffaw so November was pretty much a write-off. And then what do we get this month? We have a vaccine. And they came out with it and everyone's like, oh wow. So we've got this super, super fast vaccine and then everybody's like, oh, great. And then a couple of articles come out saying, but did you know that we had the vaccine at the beginning of the year?
And did you know it can actually render you infertile? Like, by the way, guys.
So we did actually have the vaccine at the beginning of the year, and we could have started doing the preliminary tests at the beginning of the year instead of waiting until the end of the year and testing a few thousand people. And I mean, we know that they didn't catch everything because then people with issues started having issues with the vaccine. And it was
Look
just
up
fortunate
real
that
quick.
certain people for an example that came from the UK, good example that came from the UK, were two people that received the vaccine that had food allergies, and fortunately they had their EpiPens with them, so nothing fatal happened. But
This
it
is
was an
exactly right.
example of it was a perfect example of they didn't test every eventuality because they went
Well, they
very,
can't.
very fast.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was a rush job. And that's what also makes me laugh about trust the science, trust the science. All right, well, science says you should be spending between 10 to 15 fucking years to create a fucking vaccine that's going to work. Has it been anywhere near 10 to 15 years? No. And yet somehow we're all absolutely thrilled that this bullshit vaccine is going to freaking make everything back to normal next year. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? I read it was 10 years before and I just looked it up to confirm. And yeah, 10 to 15 years. That's actually why the polio one took so long. That's why the polio one was distributed after the decline, because it took so long to test it and make sure it's okay. And that's just it. We're already seeing side effects. We're already seeing people with Bell's palsy. We're already seeing people rendering infertile because of it. And yeah, various allergies. Hell, there's no way I'm taking it. I've got allergies. My kids have, well, my son really, he has food allergies for sure. Like hell, if you're going to get me taking a freaking rush job vaccine after I've had to go on like hardcore antibiotics and medications, all kinds of crap multiple times from different vaccinations, like, that's not happening,
Yeah, well, I mean,
but
they're not even suggesting or distributing the vaccine in a scientific way.
no, they're not.
I mean,
They were putting it on
I
pregnant
mean,
women.
yeah,
They were
let
giving it to pregnant
yeah, I
women.
mean,
God.
let's say let's hypothesize, let's say for argument's sake that it is 100. Let's argue that it was 100% effective and 100% safe, right? That doesn't, and even if that was the case, it's then, so why aren't you vaccinating every single high risk person now? Why would you even suggest giving it to a 20-year-old medical worker over a 75-year-old woman?
I know. I saw
But
people
that's
saying,
what,
like, why are you giving it to AOC before you're giving it to like freaking rehab homes and shit? Like, AOC doesn't need it. She doesn't have anything that's going to cause her to get it.
yeah,
And not to mention
apparently
the
that's,
shedding.
but apparently that's following the science, and it's like, no, the priority number one people should be every single at risk person,
Right, the people who are actually at risk of getting it.
yeah, because 90 to 95% of the people that have died as a result of contracting the virus had some form of comorbidity or underlying condition because they
Right.
were high at risk. The numbers of people that were healthy that contracted this and died are infinitesimal. More people died of pneumonia than healthy people that got this and died from it. And
Yeah.
yet it's like, oh, no, we've got to do the essential workers first. And it's like, is that essential worker under the age of 25? Yeah, then they don't need it. They're not high risk.
Yeah.
They literally do not need it. They are the lowest priority people. Can they get it? Does it mean that they can that they can't get it? No, of course not. Of course they can still get it, but if they get it, they're going to be of that extremely high percentage of people that are just going to recover after a few days. Somebody that's high risk with a comorbidity or someone that is elderly isn't going to. So, giving it for the sake of, giving it to someone who is an essential worker for the sake of giving it to someone who is an essential worker doesn't wash with me when there are people.
You know what they're probably doing?
Hmm?
This is what's probably happening here. So, I mean, we know this vaccine is rushed, not tested anywhere near enough. As from just kind of researching here, it takes easily 2 to 5 years just of research alone of the virus itself to even consider starting how can we start creating a vaccine, right? we already know it has side effects. We're seeing more and more side effects come out more and more and more. And good chance if you administer this vaccine to elderly, already immune compromised, et cetera, people, something's probably going to go wrong because their bodies can't really handle it more than likely. There's just a higher risk considering how, again, under-researched it is and how many side effects we already know it has. There's more than likely more that we just haven't discovered yet. However, if you administer it to healthy young people first who don't need it, then it's going to appear safer. They're a lot less risk of having some kind of side effect. So then they're going to go, oh, look, all these people took it, all these numbers took it, and they were fine. As opposed to if you actually gave it to people who are at higher risk and more likely to develop some kind of side effect or get sick off of it or whatever, then the numbers don't look so good. That's why they're doing the young people first, because they're trying to get those numbers high up going, look, all these people took it and they were okay. So it's fine to take. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's a bit like
it's mind games.
That's one of
it's all manipulation and mind games.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I think that you.
I might be sounding a little Alex Jones right now, but
no, because that you could apply that logic to a vaccine like the HPV vaccine.
That's which actually is one of the ones I'm really allergic to.
That's the HPV vaccine is there to reduce the risk of cervical cancer, but as you know, somebody can't get cervical cancer unless they're sexually active. So if they give it to a bunch of 11-year-olds that aren't sexually active, they can say, well, we gave the HPV vaccine to 1 million people and we tested them 12 months later and they did not have cervical cancer. They can go, well, that proves that it's working. It's like, well, no, because the 12-year-olds still aren't sexually active.
Exactly. I was 10 when they gave that to me. And yeah, that was one of the ones that gave me the worst reactions, actually, like full on massive infection. I had to go on antibiotics for weeks over it. Like I remember when my mom took me to the pharmacy and we picked up the medication and she asked, like, when should we start administering this to her? And they said, well, let me see the area where it's infected. And I showed them and their mouth just dropped and their eyes like got wide and they literally said, right the fuck now. Like it was that bad. Like all within a matter of like, within like days, it grew that bad. And it kept happening with different vaccines too. And so after a while, they're like, okay, we're just not even going to try anymore. Cause they were giving me like different prebiotics to like try to disinfect the area first and hope that would help calm. And like nothing was working. So yeah, they were just like, no, we're not doing this anymore. But yes, I was 10 when that happened. I think by 12 is when they were like, okay, just no more. Actually, no, I might've been 11. I might've been 11 at that point, 11 or 12. But yeah. So like hell if I'm gonna freaking take this half-assed sketchy vaccination right now.
Yeah, no, I was talking to my eldest. I was FaceTiming with my eldest a couple of days ago, and we were literally, we were talking about vaccines actually, because I was talking about how we didn't take her the doctors to get the MMR. We just did the separate ones because we knew that the separate ones had been tested over many, many, many years and that they were considerably more safer than the newer MMR jab that had only been around for a short while. So I was saying, when we got you vaccinated, we got you the separate ones. And then I talked to her about the HPV one, which because when they were doing that in her school, they were giving them to all the girls in her year. And at the time I was like, well, she doesn't need it now because she's not sexually active now. Because I was talking to her about that because she's like, yeah, I haven't had that yet. And I'm like, yeah, because you don't need it now. But, and I said to her, but I would definitely advise you, because you're 16 now and you're getting close to that age where you may become sexually active, sweetheart. So, if you know that you're going to become sexually active, if you do get yourself a boyfriend and things like that, then that's when you go to your doctors and say, look, I'm thinking about becoming sexually active. I have a boyfriend. I'm in a long-term relationship. I would like to get the HPV vaccine. That's the way you do it. You do it smartly. You do it intelligently. There's no risk of it at 11, but, the cervical cancer risk does become present once a person becomes sexually active. So yeah, and so I've had these I have these I've had the vaccine discussion with with my daughter, because she's like, oh, don't know
Yeah.
when they're going to give it to us, and I'm like, if you're under 20, you're probably not going to need it. You're the
Right.
bottom of the pecking order.
I
Um,
kind of sorta with my kids, just because they've like, they see them like on TV, or they'll see like, or like even in toy doctor kits, they give you little toy syringes, like you're giving someone a vaccination, and they ask about it, and like, so when my daughter was born, she was an emergency cesarean, because like I've said, I don't react. Gosh, her birth was an absolute nightmare. I do not. I told the doctors this. I don't respond to medication properly. Basically, to sum it up, for those interested, and why I don't trust doctors, because so many freaking experiences. So with my daughter, she was constantly measuring 6 weeks behind, not in development, just in size. She was tiny. Okay. I was on hormonal birth control when she was conceived. Honestly, I think that's to blame, because we don't really have any other answers, and it just wouldn't surprise me. And again, with how I react to various medications and pills, etc., it just would not surprise me. So anyway, she was at that point a week and a half overdue, and I went in for my routine check. There was absolutely no chance. I had no signs of oncoming labor at all whatsoever. At that point, she had been dropped for 6 weeks. We thought she was going to be coming at any point, and there was just no signs of labor. So they told me to go in and get induced. So I went in and I said, look, I'm like, you need to find something more natural than medication to induce me, because if you give me medication, granted, I've never been on this medication before, but if you give it to me, more than likely something's going to go wrong, because that just is my medical history. That's always what happens if I go on medications. Doesn't matter what kind, something's going to go wrong. And they didn't believe me. They just said, okay, we'll start you with a quarter dose and see what happens. Immediately, my placenta died. Immediately, like within seconds. And her heart rate started going like crazy. And they went, we need to get her out right now, because if you have one contraction, she's going to die. Okay. So we went from that to that within like 10 minutes. And they wheeled me in, and yeah, oh gosh, the whole thing was an absolute fucking nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Pain medicines didn't work right. They tried giving me medications to calm me down. 5 different ones didn't work. It was a mess. And finally they get her out before I started going to contractions, and she was tiny. Babies are born with an extra layer of fat called brown fat. She didn't have that. She was 5 pounds and a week and a half overdue. She was the size of a preemie. All right. So because of all that, plus her heart rate was going erratic over and over again, because of all the stress of the whole birth and my placenta failing and everything, like all kinds of stuff going on. She was just so vulnerable. They were like, I told them, I'm like, now you see what I mean when I say medications don't work right on me. You have just witnessed that with multiple medications. You witnessed that with the induction meds. You witnessed that with the pain medication. You witnessed that with the knockout shit and everything. None of it worked right. Now you see why I don't exactly feel safe vaccinating her, because I also have this with vaccinations. And they're like, okay, we're not even going to push it. With my son, he was actually, we didn't have issues like that with my son. His was much more healthy. But as soon as I said, look, I've got history of allergy to vaccinations, his doctor stopped me right there and said, I'm not giving them to him then. Conversation over. Like, it just stopped. So I've told him, like, look, this is my medical history. This is how Luna's birth went. This is the effects. This is what I've gone through. So yeah, we do not get them done, because good chance you guys are allergic too. And especially with my daughter is tiny, and she had those early on health issues. My son does have severe food allergies. So I'm like, there's just too much that make me go, no, I'm not going to put that risk on you guys. When they grow to be adults, if they decide to do that, that's their choice. But as far as I'm concerned, with all the issues I've had with every medication, given to me and vaccinations, and with the issues my daughter had, and with the allergies my son has, I'm not putting that risk on them. And I've had multiple doctors say, we don't blame you. There's a much better chance that they're going to survive. If by chance somehow they get polio, much better chance they'll survive that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if that's pretty much how it's going with my kids, But and then that doesn't always make everyone happy. I've actually had people tell me they hope I die and then my kids get taken away from
That's
me
always
over
nice
it.
when people say
the
that,
also
isn't it?
tolerant, science-loving left.
Yeah, it's always
Democrats
nice when
tell me
people
that.
wish death upon you, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's always been the Democrats. It's every single time it's been a Democrat that has told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that brings us to the end of the year. Our year in review with all of our wonderful tangents coming off. So yeah, but it's been a good conversation. We've enjoyed it. I mean, we haven't been together doing this for the entire year. I think we're only like 15 or 16 episodes in. But
yeah, I think this is 15 if I remember right.
But yeah, we'll be there every single week of 2021. So let's hope that 2021 is just as interesting.
No, let's make it a different interesting, please. I'm tired of this interesting. I want a different interesting.
We'll have let's keep our fingers crossed for a different interesting in 2021. But
I want like John Wick 4 to finally be released interesting. Okay, like can we keep like happy, nice things?
Yes.
No more of this bullshit.
No worries. Anyway, okay, so that brings us to the end of the show, the end of the year. So this is the point where we go, please hit that like, hit that subscribe. It'd be really, really nice if we can get our numbers up, and be sure to check the Etsy links and the store links and all of Harley's wonderful links down below.
Like
so that you can
I only ever really post like one, maybe two links sometimes.
So that you can get some Gucci handmade stuff from Harley. So Harley, do you have anything to add at the end of the show?
It's weird when you say Gucci.
But when I say Gucci, you know what I mean when I say Gucci.
I know what you mean, but it's weird when you say it. Okay, Gucci. It's like when you said you can't say dude like I can. It's that same thing.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway,
so, you got anything to add at the end there?
Don't suck ass. That's all I can say. I'm tired of people sucking ass. Don't suck ass.
No worries. All right, then.
That is my clear statement, and it's solid advice, and I will die on that hill.
Okay, that works for me. So yeah, thanks to everybody that's tuned in and follows and subscribes and has found us during the year. We hope to bring you more content in 2021, but until 2021, we will see you all next year. Ta-ta for now.
Bye, guys.